When people focus on box breaks and card breakers, so much of the focus goes towards the breaker themselves, who quite frequently lately have been scammers. They've been there to try and rip their customers off, which is a really important thing to call out. But I think a lot of the focus with regards to this also needs to go towards the gambling and addictive nature on box breaks and why we as a hobby need to do better when it comes to helping out our friends. So I want to talk through a few points today. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, Dan the Cardman back again. Welcome to another video. Very glad to have you here. Now, in today's video, I'm going to talk through, two different elements within the box breaks and card breaks community that I think you should be aware of, both for yourself and for the sake of your friends, to try and get some support and try and keep this stuff front of mind, right? To make sure you're making some informed decisions. Now, the first portion of this video, I'm going to touch on, some of the known scammers within the breaking industry and why, or some things you need to be aware of when it comes to making a decision before you decide to break with someone, right? And then the second portion is going to be something that's a little bit close to home, and that's, the addictive and gambling nature of box breaks and why we as a hobby need to do better when it comes to supporting our friends when we see they're maybe biting off more than they can chew and starting to get themselves into, some strife, some issues. Now, like I said, the first portion is going to be on some known scammers. So I'm going to quickly highlight a few things. Now, I want you to keep something front of mind that scammers in box breaks have been around since breaking was a thing, right? It's always happened, but because we've had the boom over the last 2 years, you're starting to see it a lot more. It's almost like the Wild West now. You've got basically more breakers than there are grains of sand on the planet, right? That's pretty crazy, but so many of them have like really dodgy setups. They've got one camera that barely shows anything, and it's so easy for them to rip their customers off, and you're seeing it more and more these days, and it's really disappointing to see. So I'm going to show you a few things now. You've got something here from Cardpoint, actually, that sent something, made a post today with regard to Brendan Cooks, which is a known scam that happened quite some time ago. I won't play the video. I'll put the link down below, and it'll be the case for all of them. But this guy's got one camera. Easily, it's so obvious that he hides the card, but he thinks he's being super expert, hides the card, rips his customer off, right? We don't know what the card was at the end of the day, but it's really dodgy. But then you've also got people doing different kinds of scams. We've got these guys from Backyard Breaks I've touched on many times now, where they offered to give somebody in their live stream a free pack. They opened that free pack. It had a gold kaboom in it. I think it was Trevor Lawrence. And then like, oh, we can't give you that pack, right? So not only do you have people stealing cards from you blatantly like those guys were, you've got people like this that you may have supported, for many years that all of a sudden turn around and do something super dodgy like this that make them completely untrustworthy. Yeah, they're young kids and they've apologized since then, but that's something you have to keep in mind as well. You might know the people you're breaking with, but until something comes along that's almost too good to be true for them, it's like, what? I don't know how expensive that card will be, $1 million. Is that how much it is? That changes people's perceptions, right? That all of a sudden they made a really dumb decision that's probably burnt them as a business. So it's also something you need to keep front of mind. Not only are your potential breakers that are new going to rip you off, but you've also got guys that have been around for a long time. And you also saw that with Platinum Card Breaks recently, where these guys aren't so amateur. They've got 3 camera setups. They've been around for a very long time. And if you haven't seen this video, I might do a pop-up now to some of the things I've discussed recently, but they basically hid a redemption for Justin Fields, I think it was, and they pretended that it wasn't there and they accidentally threw it in the bin. And a bit crazy, but you've got guys that have been around for a long time with really good camera setups still ripping you off as a customer. So it's like me, as a buyer, how do I feel comfortable going to these guys? How do I know which ones to go for if they all seem to be doing these kinds of things? It doesn't matter whether they're new, old, have good camera setups, don't have good camera setups. There's opportunity to rip you off. So how do you get comfortable? Then you've also got this other one that happened recently with this individual from the UK that was busting UFC and pretended somebody was at the door, opened the pack. You could hear him rustling in the background, basically bust the pack on camera. It opens really easily, and then he finds out, well, actually there's one less card in here. What's going on? So really dodgy, right? And like I said, it's like you as wanting to enter into box breaks, how do you know who to trust? So I guess the key message here is do your research, right? Go back and watch a lot of breaks. Go on blowout forums. See if they've been associated with any kinds of scams in the past. Watch them for a few weeks before you decide to enter them. If they have a store that's local to you, go into that store, get to know the guys, right? Because that's going to help you, make an informed decision. Don't just rush to give somebody your money, because it's happening countless times. It almost happens on a weekly basis. You hear something about a breaker scamming their customers. It's really unfortunate. But just like I said, do your research, look around, start talking to people within the hobby, because that'll help you understand. Because as you've seen, even guys that have been around for a long time, have ripped their customers off. Now, The main portion of this video and something that's a bit close to home is talking through, you know, the addictive nature, the gambling nature associated with box breaks, and why I think we as a hobby need to do better when it comes to, you know, supporting our friends or trying to seek help for ourselves if you're going through this yourself, because it doesn't get talked about enough, and it almost gets jokingly talked about, but it can be a serious problem for people and it can ruin people's lives, right? I didn't get that bad, and I'll go through my experience in a second, but it's something that you should be aware of. Now, just very quickly, I'll put this link down to George Wiley's video. It's really good. He speaks about a lot of different things. I'll just give a quick summary of it. You can watch it in your own time. But basically, he talks about how, and it came out, quite some time ago, like I said, and I watched it a while ago, and it's been in the back of my mind for a while, but I thought now would be a good time to talk about it. But basically, he talks through, you know, how he was collecting cards as a kid, and then he didn't think about them for many years until his son was older. He bought him a box of cards, and then from there, things started to, you know, not spiral, but like grow exponentially, right? He started entering in breaks, then he started running his own breaks, and then he started having issues filling those breaks, so he started using his own money to fill those breaks, and then he started to see how much time he was invested in doing this sort of stuff, and how much or how little the money was returned for that. He was basically spending a lot of time of his life doing this, and then he started to see how much money some of his customers were actually spending to break with him, and he was, I believe he talks for like tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars, if I recall. I might be getting two stories mixed up there, but he does talk about a lot of money reaching to the point where he's like, I need to step away because this is ruining people's lives. So please check that out. I'm not going to talk through it all because it's his video. I don't want to take his content away, but that's something that's really important. And like I said, it doesn't get talked about enough, right? Because when you're entering in a break, it becomes something different to just busting cards, right? It's very addictive, firstly, and it's essentially gambling, right? And the barrier to entry to buy into a break is quite small, right? You just literally click on a website and click buy it now, and then you've got the break, right? So if you don't get any cards in the hit because you're having fun with the people you're talking to, and you're not like immediately realizing how much money you're spending, right? Because it's literally just clicking a button, you know, before you know it, you've racked up a huge bill and you haven't got any cards to sort of show for it. And then you start getting into all the other issues that are associated with gambling, right? Where you just start chasing your tail, you're trying to recoup your money, so on and so forth. And I didn't go through anything severe when I was heavily into sports breaks and box breaks, you know, like 6, 7, 8 years ago. But I did have some of these tendencies, right? I'm a really obsessive person. I'm quite compulsive at times. I guess most collectors are. I've always been like that, right? You can see my stuff behind me. I like to collect a lot of things, so I like to jump in. And, you know, the issue with box breaks, like I said, is you're just clicking on a button. So you're not realizing how much money you're spending. And then before you know it, you spend so much money, where it's very different. You might say, Daniel, how is that any less addictive or any more addictive than buying cards yourself? Well, the difference is you go to the shops, you buy cards, you get that tangible experience of opening the cards, right? So that scratches some of that itch you might have. If you don't get any hits, it's a lot harder for you to then go back to the store and buy the card, right? Or if you're buying the box through eBay as an example, you got to wait days for it to arrive, right? So you got all those little elements, all those barriers to entry that make it a little bit more cumbersome for you to partake in for yourself, right? But when you're busting with someone in a box break, it's immediate. You get that immediate satisfaction, right? It's like, okay, it's gone. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, now it's gone. Oh, the pack's done. Now it's gone. I don't have any cards. So you keep chasing. Before you know it, you've racked up a lot of money. Now, not a lot of breakers do a good job when it comes to monitoring their customers, right? George Wiley very clearly did, because he's like, listen, guys, you're spending way too much money. I feel like I'm ruining your life here. I feel like I'm ruining my own life. I need to step away. Not everyone does that. Some breakers, you enter them and you see in the chats, and they will know that their customers are spending so much money, and they double down and pressure them into buying more product and things like that. And it's just really disappointing to see. And it's almost something that needs to be regulated. Like, I'm shocked that in a country like Australia, as an example, we have heavy regulation on gambling, okay? I'm shocked they haven't jumped in on this yet, because it's ruining people's lives. Because a lot of the people that run these kinds of things are inexperienced themselves, and they're not looking out for the best interests of their customers, right? And to give you an example, Cherry Collectibles are very good at this, okay? They're one of the few that are very, very good. Cherry Collectibles will see, and Grayson there and has talked about this in his videos, right? He'll talk about how, you know, they're seeing trends with some of their customers, so they might have a chat with them to see how they're going, whether they can afford it or not. Or sometimes they do have conversations with their customers where the customer might say, listen, Grayson, I can't afford, I'm spending too much money on breaks. Please block my account for the next month. So he'll do that for them, right? Whereas not everyone would do that. So he's got the right mentality, but a lot of these breakers don't, and they're almost there to, you know, take advantage of their customers. And it's really unfortunate. If you've ever known someone that's become addicted to gambling or addicted to anything in life, right? It's really hard for them to stop. And when they're basically getting, you know, people that are sort of enabling them to keep doing it, and not doing anything other than that, it's really disappointing, which is why we as a hobby, we as friends of these people need to do a little bit better. So, you know, the long story short, if you know somebody that is struggling with this sort of stuff, please, you know, have a chat with them just to see if there's anything you can do and maybe help them talk them through that. Because maybe they're sitting back and they're sort of crying, like not like crying for help internally, right? Not actually crying tears, but like waiting for somebody to reach out and give them some support. And that support might be simple as having a conversation with them, maybe catching up with them every now and then to bust some cards, right? And I just think we need to do more when this stuff does get called out in the hobby. It's almost jokingly. Nobody takes it seriously, or not enough people take it seriously. So I just wanted to call that out. So please, if you know somebody, reach out, be there to support them. Or if you're somebody that's struggling with this yourself, please reach out to a friend. If you don't have any close friends that truly understand cards, reach out to somebody on Instagram, reach out to me. I'm happy to have a chat with you, right? Like, we're all here to support each other. And like I said, not a lot of people call this kind of crap out, and we need to help each other a lot more than we're currently doing. And box breakers themselves need to be doing better than what they're doing, because so many of them, like, I shouldn't say that, a lot of them are doing a really good job, but there's also just as many that maybe aren't. So long video, apologies, it's a bit different to what I normally talk about, but it was just some things I've been saying recently that I wanted to, you know, call out to try and make the hobby a better place. So please share your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.